welcome to Stories by the Campfire, brought to you by Tsanev Bushcraft. I'm Ilko Tsanev, survivalist, adventurer, and founder of Tsanev Bushcraft. In this podcast, I share personal stories from my survival experiences, real life moments that taught valuable lessons about resilience, nature, and the human spirit. Occasionally, I'll recount stories from others, always giving credit where it's due. Some of these accounts have been dramatized for a more immersive listening experience. At Tsanev Bushcraft, we're all about helping you develop the mindset, skills, and confidence to thrive in nature. We offer online and in person survival and bushcraft courses, expeditions, and personalized consultations. My new book, How to Survive and Have an Epic Adventure, is out now. Grab your copy and take your skills to the next level. Available on Amazon Kindle and print on demand, as well as a PDF download directly from our website, tsanevbushcraft.com/book. That's tsanevbushcraft.com/book. Check it out, it's amazing. Join our community at adventures.tsanebushcraft.com and connect with fellow explorers to learn more, get access to exclusive content, and share your expertise. So, gather around the campfire, it's time for a story. Conquer fear. How I conquered my fears in nature. What would you do if fear was not a factor? Would you pursue all your dreams? Would you take more risks? Unfortunately, fear is a significant factor for most of us and often holds us back from reaching our full potential. But what if you could break free from the chains of fear and truly live your life to the fullest? In this article, I will share my personal story of overcoming fear in the wilderness and provide you with proven strategies to help you overcome your fears and unlock your full potential. Stay with me until the end to discover how you can apply these techniques to your own life. Encountering fear during bushcraft and survival. In my bushcraft and survival courses, I sometimes meet students with a wide range of fears. Some are mildly irrational, like the fear that your shelter is facing the trees inwardly, but if it's okay, if its back borders them, then it's no problem. Or fear even of the smallest creatures. Others are deeply rooted anxieties stemming from internal conflicts. When it comes to bushcraft and survival, addressing these fears in a timely manner becomes essential. Types of fears. There are many types of fears: fear of the unknown, fear of rejection, social fears, phobias of animals and natural elements, and fear of loss. At their core, many of these fears stem from the most primal fear we all have, the fear of death. These fears are not just abstract concepts, they manifest vividly, especially in the wilderness, where the risks seem real and immediate. Understanding and confronting these fears is not just part of the adventure, it's essential for mastering the skills needed to survive in the wild. Unconscious fears. In some cases, we may not even realize we are afraid. These unconscious fears can be even more harmful because they manifest as physical or psychosomatic symptoms. Adrenaline rises, you start breathing rapidly, cold and hot flushes wash all over you, and you begin to sweat. You may feel anxiety as if something bad is going to happen, even though there's no logical reason for that feeling. At this point, you might start looking for rationalizations to avoid the actions that confront this unconscious fear. Examples of unconscious fears. For example, I've had a student who was gifted a survival course. He didn't purchase it themselves, but refused to attend at the last moment, offering a completely irrational and unfounded reason. As a yacht skipper, sailing in calm waters along the coast on my own yacht, I've encountered a situation where one of my passengers disembarked at a marina that wasn't our final destination because she was afraid of the open sea. In both cases, there were no reasonable grounds for fear, but the fear was present and significantly reduced this individual's cognitive functions, making it extremely dangerous to themselves or others due to their impaired cognitive abilities and the inability to think clearly, and so making them completely extremely dangerous in a potential survival situation. The fear of death. The fear of death is deeply ingrained in our psyche. It's not just about physical danger, but also the existential dread that can paralyze us. This fear often manifests when we are in situations where we feel vulnerable and exposed to the elements, far from the comforts of modern life. In the wilderness, this fear can be heightened by isolation and the unknown challenges that lie ahead. How ancient and tribal cultures overcome fear. Throughout human history, various cultures have developed methods to cope with and overcome this fear, ensuring that their members are capable of facing the harsh realities of life in the wild. Here's what I observed among the indigenous people of South America and Africa when I was among them in 2012 and 2013. Initiation rituals for adolescents. In many tribal cultures, young people are introduced to the concept of fear early on. They are often subjected to controlled challenges that teach them to face and overcome their fears. For example, in some African tribes, youths are taken into the wilderness for days with minimal supplies, teaching them self-reliance and endurance. The young may be isolated, spending time alone in the wilderness or a cave, learning to confront their inner fears. Other rituals involve immersion in water or exposure to the elements, all with the goal of helping the individual overcome their fears. 2. Rites of passage into adulthood. When these adolescents become young adults, they undergo more intense initiation rituals. In the Amazon jungle, some tribes use bulletins as a rite of passage into full membership of the initiates, causing them extreme pain from the inevitable hundreds of bites. This test is designed to instill courage and resilience. 3. Full members. After completing the initiation, individuals are considered full members of the tribe. They continue to participate in rituals that reinforce their fearlessness and connection to the natural world. These rituals often involve extreme physical endurance, symbolic acts of bravery, or facing dangerous animals. Sometimes the warriors are challenged in a ritual dance to demonstrate who is more enduring and brave. Customs in the Bulgarian lands, ancient practices to overcome fear. In Bulgaria, where I'm from, many traditional customs associated with holidays and Christian practices actually originate from our ancient rituals designed to help people overcome their fears. 1. Jumping over fire. Example 1. Jumping over fire, or called Sirni Zaguvezni. One of the most famous Bulgarian rituals is jumping over fire, believed to purify the soul and ward off evil spirits. This ritual is often performed during the period and the celebration period called Sirni Zaguvezni, symbolizing the victory over fear and the renewal of life. Example 2. Dancing on hot coals, also known as nestinarstvo. The nestinari, or fire dancers, perform an ancient ritual where they dance barefoot on hot coals. I have a personal connection to this tradition. As a small child, I grew up close to a group of nestinari for a period of time. The elder would often pick me up and dance with me on the hot coals. This experience taught me early on the power of mind over matter and the importance of overcoming fear. Example 3. Swimming in icy rivers and chasing the cross. Another custom is the annual ritual of swimming in icy cold rivers to retrieve the cross. This practice, performed during Epiphany, is a test of physical and mental endurance. It symbolizes the readiness to face and overcome the harshest elements and your fears, of course. Lead pouring. The ancient Bulgarian custom of lead pouring involves pouring molten lead into water to create shapes for divination and healing. It is believed to help dispel fear and anxiety in the sick. The ritual is still practiced today, especially in rural areas, as a way of coping with and alleviating deep-rooted fears. These customs and rituals, like those of ancient and tribal people, serve as powerful tools for overcoming fear. They teach us that fear is not something to be avoided, but something to be faced and mastered. Strategies for overcoming fear. Step 1. Identify the specific fear. Whether it's a phobia of certain animals, anxiety about isolation, or fear of the unknown, the first step is to identify the fear. If it's an unconscious fear, recognize the symptoms: anxiety, thoughts of potential problems or incidents without cause, even thoughts of death, and attempts to rationalize why you shouldn't start the task at hand. Step 2. Identify the triggers and underlying factors. What triggers this fear? Identifying the triggers is the first step. It could be a past traumatic experience, social stigmas associated with failure, or fear instilled by family or friends. Often, a deeper fear lies beneath the surface, and at the core of it is usually the fear of death, a topic closely related to survival and bushcraft in the wild. It is important to first recognize your specific fear and analyze it so that it can begin to effectively deal with it. This can be quite difficult because our defense mechanism not only triggers this fear, but also sets limitations on our ability to think rationally about it. For many of us, even engaging in an internal dialogue in this direction, what is that I fear? Is it real? What triggers it? And similar thoughts can further paralyze us, and these attempts to deal with it and thoughts are often suppressed in the subconscious. But that's a long topic for another conversation. To succeed with my 3-step plan, you simply need to at least recognize your fear and what triggers it, and from there, move on to step 3. Step 3. Apply strategies to overcome fear. Gradual exposure. Face your fear in a small manageable steps. For example, if you're afraid of the dark, start by spending a few minutes in a low or no light conditions at an outdoor camp and gradually increase the time spent in the dark. Initially, you can be with a friend or someone you trust, and then gradually try it alone. Eventually, you should be able to walk alone in the forest at night. Develop similar small steps for your specific fear, increasing the difficulty until you reach the final goal, overcoming the fear to the point where it's no longer a controlling factor in your behavior. Mental conditioning. Reinforce positive outcomes and coping skills against fear through mental conditioning. Remind yourself of your past successes against fear and build on them to boost your confidence. Reward yourself with small treats and congratulate yourself for each step forward in overcoming your fear. Personal experiences, how I overcome my fears. No one is completely fearless. At different stages of life, each of us has faced one fear or another, some more rational, others less so. Personally, I dealt with my fears not only through gradual exposure to them, but also by taking more advanced courses or expeditions related to them. For example, I had a terrible fear of water due to a near-drowning incident when I was a child, possibly leading to subsequent post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, related to water. Until the age of 16, I couldn't even swim, and even after that, I was afraid to submerge fully underwater. What did I do to overcome this problem? When I learned to swim a little bit better later in life, in 2012, I enrolled in a diving course. It was extremely difficult for me, especially when I had to use the regulator, the device you hold in your mouth to help you breathe. For extended periods, at the time, I couldn't really hold it in my mouth, and it was like I was feeling like I needed to spit it out even though I was underwater. But I succeeded. And this is the moment to thank all my former instructors, of course, but especially my first instructor, Leonard, who, despite having a difficult student, didn't give up and persistently trained and supported me so that I could meet all the strict requirements and earn my diving certificate. But I didn't stop there. Over the next few years, I took more advanced diving courses, including a nitrox diving course for greater depths, an advanced diver course, and finally a rescue diver course, which was one of the most challenging courses I've ever taken. It requires helping other divers when they panic underwater, organizing underwater rescue missions, and navigating underwater in low visibility, among many other serious acrobatics above and below the surface. Even for smaller fears, like even a minimal fear of heights, I challenge myself by enrolling in a solo parachute jump course in the UK, and whenever I have the opportunity, I go paragliding, I climb high volcanoes, hike mountains and peaks, and engage in other similar activities. Afraid of snakes? No problem. I put pythons around my neck and attend educational programs in Thailand for king cobras, which can reach up to 4 meters in length. Of course, these are controlled situations under the supervision of experts and instructors. Please don't put venomous or any snakes around your neck caught in the wild. The role of fear in survival. Psychological research, such as studies published in the American Journal of Experimental Psychology, shows that directly facing these fears not only reduces their psychological impact, but also increases overall resilience. This is why I believe that wilderness activities are the ideal arena for confronting and overcoming our deepest fears. Addressing counter-arguments. Some might argue that fear is a natural protective mechanism necessary for safety and survival. While this is true to some extent, excessive caution and irrational fears can hinder your development. It's critical to distinguish between protective fear for fleeing or fighting in immediate danger, flight or fight response, which raises adrenaline and sharpens our senses and endurance, and fear that exists only in our minds and acts as a barrier. Facing these fears in a controlled, supportive environment, like a survival course, bushcraft, or weekend experience, can turn them from obstacles into portals. Accept and face your fear. To truly overcome fear, we must accept it and challenge it directly. Adventures in nature are not about becoming fearless, but about learning to manage fear constructively, using it to propel us forward instead of holding us back. Thank you for listening to Stories by the Campfire. I'm Ilko Tsanev, and I hope today's tale sparked your sense of adventure and curiosity. Don't forget to join our community at adventures.tsanevbushcraft.com for exclusive content, discounts on online and in-person survival courses, expeditions, and more. Grab my book now, How to Survive and Have an Epic Adventure, and explore practical skills alongside powerful stories. Available to purchase on Amazon and directly on our website. Stay connected, stay prepared, and until next time, keep the fire burning.